It's the Minuteman Report with Robert Hensley.
Hey everyone, this is your Truth Be Told Minuteman, Robert Hensley, coming to you uh, not from an undisclosed location this week. I am in the Laurel Highlands of Pennsylvania, still tracking down some stories and spending the holidays with family, and got to thinking about Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving before I forget to tell everyone. But my favorite part of Thanksgiving was always my grandfather and some of the older aunts and uncles talking about or telling us youngins stories about the past. Now, some of them may have been true, some of them were probably not. My grandfather was great at spinning a yarn. How, however, they reminded me of a story that I saw recently um, about the massacre of Duffy Cut. Now, that's what I'm calling it. I don't know. I think it's being called the Duffy Cut Project. But basically, Duffy Cut is an area of kind of a railway area that was built by Irish immigrants in the 1800s. And during the cholera epidemic of 1832, 57 Irish, 57 Irish immigrants, died on that site. Now, there's a really cool story. So, Bill and Frank Watson, their grandfather used to, every Thanksgiving would tell them the story of how on Thanksgiving night in 1909, a guy was walking home from the bar and said that he saw at Duffy Cut a mist, and that within the mist there were men and women dressed in green dancing in the mist. And that he's claiming that these were the ghosts of the Irish immigrants who died during the cholera outbreak. However, 57 immigrants all dying in one place, like Duffy Cut, which is not a huge area, always seemed a little weird to the brothers. And so after they got a little older, they started doing some digging. And what Frank told CNN back in 2010 was that what he and his brother realized was that this is a murder mystery. It's not a death by cholera. This was a mass execution. This was a mass killing. And so they started digging into Duffy's Cut, which was named for a railway boss named Philip Duffy. It's a stretch of tracks located about 30 miles outside of Philadelphia. And there were some documents that Frank and Bill had inherited from their grandfather. And they found they found a notation that says that X marks the spot. And that there's a lot of really kind of strange notations that they're not being 100% clear about this cholera outbreak. And so they suspected that somewhere in these files, there were clues that were going to lead them to a mass grave. Now, they started digging in 2002 and started finding things like forks and tobacco pipe shards. Now, these, you know, seem like kind of small items to us, but if you were a poor immigrant in the 1800s, metal utensils, tobacco pipes, these things were actually really valuable. So the brothers had a hard time thinking that these struggling laborers would discard these items. And as they continued to dig and search, they started finding bones. The problem was that the bones did not show signs of cholera, but they did show signs of being pierced by bullets and being cleaved by hatchets. These men and women, these bodies were murdered. And if there are 57 bodies somewhere in a mass grave at Duffy Cut, that would make it the worst mass murder in Pennsylvania history. Now you have to remember too that in the 1800s, the Irish immigrants were treated the same way that most people react about Latin immigrants today, right? the Irish were coming to this country. They had too many kids. They kept popping out kids. They were taking jobs. And, you know, so people really did not like the Irish immigrants. The average age of these workers was 22 years old. And what they're finding in this Duffy Cut project is that, you know, these workers, it was a really cruel and rugged existence. There was a lot of xenophobia and hate. They were bullied and beaten. So they're finding, again, these pieces of skulls that have been literally kind of clunked. They were clunked in the head. And so they are still digging and finding body parts at Duffy Cut. They have located a couple of coffins, and these coffins were, I mean, it's a bit of overkill, but they were closed with more than 100 nails per coffin. Like, whoever was putting these people in the ground, they really did not, they thought that they would come back. So why would they come back if you died from a sickness? You wouldn't, but your ghost might come back if you died because you were murdered. The remains of 5 men and 1 woman were laid to rest in the cemetery here in Pennsylvania in 2012. There was a young teenager named John Ruddy who was identified. He was repatriated to County Donegal in Ireland for burial. Catherine Burns, in October of 2015, she was repatriated to County Tyrone. And yeah, all of this happened in 1832 along what became part of Pennsylvania Railroad's main line. And this kind of murder mystery never would have come about, or this project would have never started if it hadn't been for a ghost story that was shared on Thanksgiving every year by an old man who was a railway worker, talking about the ghost story of the guy walking home from the tavern. So that's a little something to put in your hat for Thanksgiving. I hope you have a fantastic holiday, and that someone shares some fantastic story with you this year. And remember, there are 3 opportunities every week for new content from Truth Be Told. 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 Eastern, across the board, right? Mondays with the Minuteman Report. Wednesdays, Truth Be Told Transformation with Bonnie Burkert. And of course, Truth Be Told, the original with Tony Sweet on Fridays. And if you have any questions, concerns, comments, stories you want us to look up, things like that, feel free to reach out. reportminuteman@gmail.com. Again, that's reportminuteman@gmail.com. And until next time, stay true.